This is Super Yacht News with E. Sisman.
Hi, welcome back to the channel. So the Superyacht Meridian A has moved briefly from a berth in MB92 shipyard in Barcelona after almost 2 years. The yacht, formerly known as motor yacht Valerie, was arrested at the beginning of the invasion of Ukraine in 2022 as she was trying hurriedly to prepare to leave the Spanish shipyard. She was actually, I actually got a photograph of her alongside motor yacht Solaris owned by Abramovich. His yacht also rapidly departed from Barcelona the day before he was added to sanctions. Now the 85-metre or 279-foot superyacht with a value of over $100 million allegedly belongs to Sergei Chemezov. He's a former KGB officer who heads the state conglomerate Rostec. However, this ownership is through a myriad of shell companies, which makes it very difficult for authorities to establish who owns any yacht in that situation. But investigations have shown that the shell companies and trusts come back to the stepdaughter of Chemezov. Now, Chemezov was sanctioned by the United States in 2014 and by Britain in 2020 over Russia's annexation of Crimea, and was named in sanctions lists in March 2022, again by the United States, further sanctions, and new sanctions by Australia. Now, after the yacht was arrested in Spain, a company who formerly owns the yacht, Solberg Services Limited, challenged the freezing order in court. Solberg argued that Spanish authorities could not prove who owned the yacht and therefore could not freeze it. A Madrid court rejected the claim in 2022. Now imagine trying that with your local police. Well, it's not my car. You can't prove it's my car, therefore you can't impound it. Like, try that one and let me know how it goes. Now, in October 2022, whilst the vessel had been arrested in Barcelona, the yacht changed the name from Valerie to Meridian A. We reported on this at the time, episode 149 of Super Yacht News, if you want to go back and see it. And we said in that video that it was unusual, especially as the yacht was frozen. However, it would become clear shortly afterwards. Later on in that month, in October of 2022, the yacht, now named Meridian A, attempted to leave Barcelona, seemingly hoping the name change would confuse the authorities long enough for the yacht to get out to sea. The yacht was leased to another company, Amtech Worldwide Limited, and that company gave power to another third company to use the yacht. And it's this company that apparently changed the name. We don't know the name of that company that did that, but they were the ones that apparently made the name change. The crew removed all evidence of the name of the yacht from the vessel, replacing it with temporary yacht signs of Meridian A, apparently written on pieces of paper, even changing the name on the life rings, and then they applied to the port for permission to leave, the port authorities. And initially they were granted that permission. Now their intention seems to reach international waters and then head for a friendly country. However, the authorities got wise to the plan and permission to leave was quickly revoked, and the vessel was then boarded by Spanish police. Now the yacht is still registered on the IMO database as owned by Solberg Services Limited. The yacht, after its short journey, which went down into the Barcelona Marina, is now back in MB92. Now this kind of thing does happen with vessels that are arrested, probably monitored by the authorities, but they allow them to go out to test the motors and test the equipment and stuff like that. All right, we'll move on to our next story. Now this is an interesting thing that just happened yesterday. My colleague who looks after our social media recently posted an old short video on our Instagram page showing a crew member climbing up an inflatable fender onto a yacht, and it had the title, "How Never," in capital letters, to climb on board a super yacht.
Jesus.
Now, it was meant to be an advisory on safe working practices on board any yacht, not this one in particular. However, we were contacted by someone claiming to know the person on the video. They said the video could harm her professionally, even though you can only see the back of her head. He also said that the video was filmed 2 years ago, so was irrelevant as she was at the time new to yachting. Now, saying she was new to yachting suggests he accepts that it's dangerous and poor practice, but then he proceeded to say that it wasn't really that dangerous climbing up a fender like this. We also had a number of comments on the Instagram post trying to ridicule the post most likely from people who know the person, focusing on the possibility of the fender exploding or rapidly deflating, which was a comment that was made in the original video, because there are lots of different possibilities of somebody climbing on a fender, not because of this particular video, right? There's no chance of this young, slim woman climbing on the fender that would cause it to explode, but if it was being compressed between two vessels as she stepped on it, it could happen, resulting in an accident. That was the intended purpose of that comment. Now, firstly, the video was intended as an example of what no crew member should do on board any yacht, not aimed at that person in that particular video. The fact that it was 2 years ago was irrelevant, and it's potentially very dangerous to climb up a fender like this, and people have been killed trying to use fenders in ways that they are not intended for. The person on deck does not react at all, smiling at the young crew member, suggesting that this was not unusual at all, but perhaps common practice on this vessel. The person who contacted us suggested also that it's not that dangerous. He's possibly a possible reason this goes on in the first place. If he has a position of authority on board a yacht and allows this to go on. Another comment on the Instagram post seemingly aimed at me personally, saying that this is coming from someone who's never stepped foot on board a sailing yacht. Now, I don't know how that's relevant. It has nothing to do with sailing yachts. It's about safe working practices on board any yacht. All yachts use fenders and all ships use fenders. So what does that comment mean? Is it common practice to climb up fenders on sailing yachts? I doubt it. In 2015, a crew member used a fender hook to secure his safety line on while he was cleaning over the side of the yacht. The fender hooks are commonly used on yachts and are placed onto the bulkheads to suspend fenders from. The fender came off the rail, hitting him on the head, and he had no helmet on, and he fell into the water and sank to the bottom. He was submerged for 13 minutes as he was also not wearing a life jacket, as the person in this video was not. He was rescued and resuscitated, but he later died of his injuries. Now, it's not the same as what's happening here, no, but it is misuse of the fender equipment that caused his death, and his death was ruled as a failure of a safe working practice on board that yacht. Now, in 2019, the chief engineer of a tugboat in Birkenhead in the northwest of England used a fender to step onto his tugboat. He fell into the water, and even though he was wearing full safety gear, including an inflatable life vest and helmet, something the person in this video was not wearing, was initially conscious in the water, he later died as he spent 20 minutes in freezing water. In its investigation, the UK Marine Accident Investigation Branch found that accessing tugs via the dock fenders at the Tranmere oil terminal was a common practice and was extremely dangerous, particularly in poor weather conditions like on the day of the casualty. The UK Maritime and Coast Guard Agency brought charges against Svitzer in Liverpool Magistrates Court for failing to instruct its crew in the use of safety and rescue equipment and failure to ensure proper safety drills, amongst other allegations. Svitzer Marine pleaded guilty and were fined £2.5 million. So there's two examples of how misuse of fenders has resulted in death. Now, one of the comments I had from somebody I worked with, a captain with many years of experience, he said that safety takes a day off, and I've never seen anyone climb up a fender like this. So he's a captain, many years of experience, he's never seen anyone do that. Okay, so now I'm sure the people who commented on Instagram will make similar comments here. They'll probably argue that the water wasn't that cold in Monaco Marina or some other sort of rationalizer. However, Monaco Marina was full of boats that day because it was during the Monaco Yacht Show, and entering the water could be potentially dangerous. You could get hit by another boat, with the propellers and stuff. Also, she could have fallen backwards, hit her head on the boat that she was climbing out of, and then entered the water unconscious, and then, possibly drowning, or sustain a head injury the same way the young deckhand did on Motor Yacht Kibo. There are so many scenarios that could have resulted from what she was doing. Now, rationalize it at your own risk, because it doesn't change the fact that it is a dangerous and unnecessary practice. All right, guys, one more thing before we go. We've got some footage here surfaced on Instagram from onboard Motor Yacht Ladacha. The Penguin boarded the vessel during their Antarctic expedition, which is apparently, it is still ongoing because we've checked on AIS. The little fella apparently hitched a ride whilst the boat was moving locations. Now, you've probably seen those videos on YouTube and on social media of animals jumping out of the water into boats when they're being pursued by predators. No idea if that's what was happening here, but I think it's potentially a reason why the Penguin would have jumped on board the yacht, right? The Penguin was later safely removed by authorities and charged with being a stowaway. Just kidding, obviously. Are there security systems on any of the yachts that have missile defense / laser systems to prevent attacks on the yachts? All right, guys, remember to check out our new podcast. It's on the podcast channel at Yacht Report Podcast. If you type that into YouTube, you'll find the channel there. You can also find it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as on Audible. Here we talk all things super yachts in a more informal, relaxed atmosphere with anecdotal stories from past adventures in the industry. Episode 3 is now live on the podcast. Episode 4 coming soon. From Monaco to Gibraltar was 865 nautical miles. And remember to check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/eSysman. We've got 150 members now. You'll find many videos not featured on YouTube, including our Atlantic vlog series and behind the scenes footage from our trips to Italy, Monaco and France. There's lots of other extras, patron chat series and other stuff that we'd never post on YouTube on there also. Now, if you've got any information for us about any of the stories here or any other stories, please be sure to get in touch. You can get us in the email address in the ticker. You can get us on the About page of YouTube. You can get us on Instagram, on Facebook Messenger, and also on Threema. Be sure to like this video, very important, the algorithm. Hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for future notifications. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.
Jesus.